Hello and welcome. This is rooflemonger. And my friends, today we're talking about the DLC announced for Street Fighter 6, and very specifically we're talking about Akuma himself. Because, well, Akuma looks a little different than usual, but this is part of a trend, as in recent years every time Akuma shows up, he starts looking a little bit different, a little bit different than usual. And as I'll present to you in this video, I believe we're at a little bit of an evolutionary branch for the character. There are two ways for him to go, the path of the mortal and the path of the demon. So before we get directly into it, let's just talk about this version of Akuma as it stands. So the hair's gone white, and that literally can be something as simple as age. Because I know we don't usually think Akuma as this way, but Akuma's basically a senior citizen. Remember that he trained with Gouken under Gotetsu, so he's roughly Gouken's age, and Gouken's kinda old, y'all. And it's not like there hasn't been hints of Akuma showing his age in the past. In the original Street Fighter 6 art, before we got this new design, he was going gray along his hair, and also in Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, his character select portrait also has some grays on the side. He's just getting old. And that's perfectly fine. Street Fighter 6 is moving the timeline forward. Ryu is obviously now in his either late 30s or early 40s, and he was in his 20s in Street Fighter 2. Honda himself is going gray on the sides. Everyone's getting older, and that's perfectly okay, because a lot of us Street Fighter fans were getting older too, so it's nice to see the cast age along with us. So Akuma with white hair is very specifically tied to a certain version of Akuma, which we'll talk about in a moment, but at the bare minimum, dude is just getting older as well. So that's part of the reason why I think he just has the white hair. We don't have exact ages for a lot of the characters, but Akuma's got to be in his 50s or early 60s at this point. Now, let's talk that branching path about exactly what is happening to Akuma here. Because there's effectively two paths to talk about. The path of Shin Akuma, which famously has the white hair, and the path of Oni. One is the path of Akuma mastering his martial art, the Satsui no Hado, and the other is the path of Akuma just totally rejecting his humanity and becoming a demon. At bare minimum, it looks like Akuma is retaining the Lion's Mane that he had in Street Fighter V, and in Street Fighter V he is very much on the path of the demon, so much more on the path going to Oni. This is very different than the path originally intended for him in Street Fighter V, when he, as a concept as a character, was gonna fight with a baby on his back. Like literally. And his V trigger would be finding a way to put the baby down for a second so he could fight at full potential without having to worry about the baby. So this version of Akuma is definitely one much more in touch with his human side versus the demon side, I think it's fair to say. So make no bones about it, even the version of Akuma that is trying to stay human and just mastering the martial art and becoming the strongest there is, that version of Akuma is still a jerk. He's still overall not a nice guy, he still wants to fight people to the death, and he's still very willing to kill. However, he will remain human in the end, just a really rotten human. His ultimate goal is to prove simply that he is the best. He is the ultimate master of the Ansatsuken, the Satsui no Hado, the martial art. He is the number one guy who kicks and punches the best. And he's willing to do whatever it takes to prove it. And this admittedly comes with a lot of hard work and training. You know, sometimes you gotta go to Ayers Rock in Australia and just punch it as hard as you can and split it in half. You gotta do what you gotta do, right? That's how it is. And this is the path that eventually leads down to Shin Akuma, where he's truly mastered the Satsui no Hado, and he is the ultimate warrior. And that said, though, he's still Akuma, he's still himself. So he still has his really warped moral code, his really warped sense of honor. Like Shin Akuma, or regular Akuma, human Akuma, won't just pick fights for the sake of picking fights. He wants to fight the best people. If he considers you below him, he's not going to waste his time. Conversely, there is the path of Oni. This is not where he masters the Satsui no Hado. This is where the Satsui no Hado has mastered him. And he loses all sense of humanity, he loses all sense of moral, he loses all sense of self. Perhaps this is ultimate power in the end, but Akuma is basically no longer Akuma at this point. He's something else. And going by what little tidbits we have in the Street Fighter V story, this is seemingly what he's aiming for. He's now walking the demon's path. which is something Ryu doesn't approve of. And as of Street Fighter 6, we know there's no more evil Ryu. Ryu is totally done with the Satsui no Hado. He's not bothering with it. He's found his own thing, which is better. So perhaps in the context of the story, that's disturbing for Akuma. The guy you wanted to tempt with what you've been selling all these years is totally done with it. So in the context of the games, Oni is a dream character, as it would. Oni is in the games, but he's not necessarily canonical. Oni is what, as you can see here, and this is Asura's Wrath here, the story DLC they had. Oni is what Akuma goes to when what he's been doing is no longer good enough. Such as that obviously non-canonical Asura's Wrath DLC. When he cannot beat Asura, then it's time to give in to the Satsui no Hado, completely sell out what's left of your humanity, and go to the demon. And perhaps in the context of Street Fighter, maybe that's exactly what's happening. We're on the next step along that line. Akuma couldn't beat Gouken. He thought he killed him. Gouken came back, and then his powers were worthless against him because Gouken learned the power of nothingness. His number one quote-unquote student in Ryu basically doesn't care. He's completely done with it. So at this point, what's left for an angsty edgelord left to do, really, other than just go all the way with it? And thus, we wind up with Oni instead of Shin Akuma. Now, obviously, in the confines of Street Fighter 6, Akuma's still Akuma, right? He's still gonna, shoot the air fireball, have the fancy hurricane kick, what lets you combo after the fact. Demon Flip is gonna be as annoying as it's ever been, I'm very sure. But it's clear to me with the new look, and still holding a bit of that weird lion mane look that he had in Street Fighter V, where he's basically throwing away his humanity, that we're on the next step to the evolution of Akuma as a character. And perhaps this all-new look is a hint at where we're going. I just think it's very interesting where this is going. Of the 4 DLC characters shown for year 1 of Street Fighter 6, it's very obvious to me that Akuma is the prestige character of the 4. Sort of the one that matters the most, if you will. And certainly the one that matters the most in terms of the context of the lore and story of Street Fighter. Aki's all new, Rashid, well, he's Rashid and Ed, I'm sorry buddy, but I care a lot more about whatever the gorilla is about than you. Because 1, it's a gorilla, 2, it's a psycho power gorilla, and 3, we know canonically, thanks to Nakayama, that this gorilla has inherited part of M. Bison's powers, specifically M. Bison's wisdom. So yeah, this is one hell of a gorilla. Sorry Ed, you don't match up. So maybe the Psycho Power Gorilla will be like year 2 DLC, we don't know. But for now, on the Akuma front, that's sort of where I'm at. Obviously, this is a lot of speculation, I don't know for sure, but I always find this stuff very, very interesting. And I would love to know what you guys think about this as well. Do you think that perhaps Akuma is indeed on the route to becoming Oni officially? Or perhaps he's just getting old and the grays are just because he's in his 60s now. Either way, please let me know in the comments below. I would love to know what you guys think. And, well, I guess we're at the end of the video. So when more Street Fighter news is happening, I'll do my best to bring it to you. But for now, since we're at the end of the video, thank you very much for watching. Hope this video has found you well, and go out and play some Street Fighter.